Good evening. I'm Pedro Hazel Jr.
I'm Steve Ferguson.
Welcome to another edition of Sportslines Plus. Tonight, we'll be talking about the changing of the guard in the New York football scene, with the Jets firing of Joe Douglas as general manager, the Giants releasing quarterback Daniel Jones, and the Juan Soto sweepstakes. If you like what you see, hit the subscribe button. The internet address is youtube.com/@Sportslines Plus. Correction, the European game the Giants played against the Panthers 2 weekends ago was held in Munich, Germany, not Berlin, as was mentioned in the last show. Apologies for the error. In one of the most tumultuous seasons ever for the New York Jets, Tuesday, they fired Joe Douglas, their GM, general manager, after 5+ seasons, and replacing him with Phil Savage, who was a senior football advisor for them. He had previously worked with Douglas when both were with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, this comes a month after they fired head coach Robert Saleh. Now I've been reading reports on the Jets releasing Aaron Rodgers before the season ends. Steve, try to decipher all of this.
You know what? I think the best way for me to decipher it is to say this is the three-headed monster. Everything that can go wrong this year for the Jets happened.
Yeah.
And I would say the main blame for all this starts with Woody Johnson, the owner, because our team has not made the playoffs for 14 consecutive years. That blame has to fall on him. People said Robert Saleh was a lot to blame for this, but I'll tell you what, Robert Saleh actually got us 3 of our wins.
Yeah.
Our head coach now, Jeff Ulbrich, has gotten us a grand total of 1 win. So, in the long run, Robert Saleh is going to do what he does, which is a very good defensive coordinator job. He'll probably be rehired as soon as next season, but he's out of this mess. And I would tell you honestly, the other person that needs to go, and I have no idea why he is still here, is Daniel Hackett, who is unquestionably the worst offensive coordinator the Jets have ever had. And I'll tell you in the order this should have been done. It should have been Woody Johnson giving up the ownership.
Which he probably won't do.
Which he probably won't do. Saleh probably had to go because they weren't winning any games.
Yeah.
Hackett should have been gone next. The last guy who should have been gone is Joe Douglas. Joe Douglas, with all respect to him, is probably right now still considered the best or one of the best general managers in the game.
And they still managed to lose, but go ahead.
And I would say Joe Douglas, with one exception, actually did a good job with this team. The exception being Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
Zach Wilson was forced on the scene a couple of years ago, drafted number 2. We had never heard of this guy. And that was a bad sign right there. But to tell you what he is now, he is the backup to Bo Nix in Denver, who is a rookie. So he has really shown us who he is, which he was never a good NFL quarterback. But the biggest mistake they made was throwing him out there year 1.
Yeah.
If you were the Jets, you should have gotten Aaron Rodgers or someone else and let him sit and learn. Aaron Rodgers, as great a quarterback as he has been, it took him 3 years to get on that field.
I remember you mentioned that story.
And Jordan Love, who replaced him, sat and watched Rodgers for 3 years. My question to the Jet organization is, why couldn't you do the same thing with Zach Wilson? Learn to develop a young quarterback. Don't throw them out to the wolves. There aren't many Dan Marinos or C.J. Strouds in the world. You have got to start from the beginning and build your team. And
yet again.
Yes. And the talent this team has is maddening how they're not any good. Garrett Wilson, the 10th pick in the draft a couple of years ago, is a bona fide star wide receiver. Now, you can argue that Sauce Gardner was the 4th pick in the draft a couple of years ago, has declined a little bit and is not having the year he had last year or the year before. That being said, they drafted Breece Hall, a first-round talent in the 2nd round. Good move on the Jets. They have done a lot of things to make their team better, but I'm convinced what they now need, since Woody Johnson is not going to leave, and God, I wish he would, they need a tough-minded head coach. Rex Ryan, and you may laugh when I say this, wants the job back. And he said recently, if anybody can turn this around, it's me. That's the kind of coach they need now. Whether he can do it or not doesn't matter to me. They need some toughness. They need either Rex Ryan or an Aaron Glenn who's doing a superb job.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
Yes.
He's now defensive coordinator for the Detroit
And you
Lions.
see how bad the Lions' defense was last year. Their offense was phenomenal.
Yeah.
But they are becoming a good defensive
One of the best teams in the NFL.
Absolutely. They have a chance even to win the Super Bowl. I'll go that far.
Oh, the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Wow.
Because
I know they came close. They came close to the
beating
49ers, but inexperienced.
Right. Now they have a good defensive coach and a good head coach. That's where the Jets fail. They don't seem to get the right personnel to run the talent that they have. So I would say right now, Rex Ryan ranks very high on my list for somebody to run this team again. Aaron Rodgers would be a nice pick for the first time as a head coach. And I'll bring up another
Aaron Rodgers?
I'm sorry, Aaron Glenn.
Aaron Glenn, okay.
Excuse me. And I will tell you right now, the next guy behind him who the Giants passed on, how about you bring in Brian Flores? And one of my friends said to me, well, he had problems with Tua. So what? It's about time you have a head coach that stands up to the players and says, you're doing it my way or you're going on the highway.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. As a Jet fan, I am livid and I have been for years watching this team. I thought this was the year they were going to at least make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
This has been an absolute disgusting display.
Disaster to say.
This organization is probably the worst run organization in football right now, period. And the Giants are pretty bad, by the way, but not like the Jets. The Jets got all this talent, and they're still a horrible team. When is this going to get better? I know Woody Johnson isn't leaving tomorrow or anytime soon, but you better get some coaches who can do the job and tell these players, shut up and listen to what I tell you because you suck. That's what needs to be told right to their faces.
Yes,
because
I agree.
I think when Rex Ryan was here, they listened to him. Their defense, if you remember when he was here, was number one in the NFL. He inspired people to come to the ballpark.
Yeah.
You and I went to a game years ago when they played the New England Patriots, and he encouraged people to come to the game and watch us and root for us and support us. And they won that game, by the way.
I remember.
17-10.
I remember.
And they beat that team in the playoffs when nobody thought that was possible.
Well, yeah.
So Rex Ryan, you can say what you want about him being a blowhard, but he is an excellent head coach. I want him back here or somebody close to that.
By the way, the Jets have a bye weekend after losing 28-27 to the Indianapolis Colts last weekend.
And let me say this about that game briefly. The last play of the game when Aaron Rodgers got sacked, I thought to myself, why couldn't you have gotten this guy 5 years ago? 5 years ago, he gets out of that pocket, runs down the field, and throws a deep pass and probably completes it. But the man is 40 years old. He had an Achilles injury last year that took him out of the season for the year. He's too old to do the job now. And I like Aaron Rodgers personally, but your days of running this team on the field are done.
Yeah.
We need a really good quarterback out of the draft. I mean, if we're lucky, and last year they had some terrific ones. Caleb Williams, Jalen Daniels, Bo Nix. I don't know if we're going to be that lucky this year, but we've got to find a really good one.
Yeah, I was hearing the quarterback picks are kind of thin this year.
That's what I heard.
That's what I've been hearing. Actually, the Jets need a break at this weekend after all this promotion.
Yes, this is a welcome break for the Jets. Well, if they can't get it through the draft, then they're going to have to get somebody off the free agent market who can come in and wake this team up. And I'll tell you what, I don't know why Tyrod Taylor isn't getting a shot now.
We're getting to the Giants right now.
He's now with the Jets. He's the backup to Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, yeah, the Jets. Oh, yeah. Why can't they use him?
Why don't you put him on the field now?
Sorry about that. Yeah.
You're 3-9. You're not going anywhere. Let him play the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Or let that other guy Adrian Martinez play. Let these guys play now because you're not getting to the playoffs again, and you're hurting us more and more by putting Aaron Rodgers on the field. But I'm sorry, Aaron, your days of playing as a starting quarterback for any team are done.
Right.
Done. And by the way, if you release him, that might be a good thing.
Yes, indeed. Meanwhile, the Giants released quarterback Daniel Jones Friday after being demoted earlier this week after that disastrous game in Germany where they lost 20-7 in overtime 2 weekends ago. Tommy DeVito will start as quarterback tomorrow when they face the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at MetLife Stadium. Now, that's another thing.
Yes.
Daniel Jones. We could talk forever about Daniel
Jones.
We
can.
But we'll try to restrain ourselves.
Yep. Daniel Jones, I have to tell you, and I don't usually applaud anybody who fails in the public eye, but this guy had run my patience down to nothing. I am happy as I can be that he is gone from the Giants. He never should have been picked number 6 in the draft. He's been a horrible quarterback for 6 years. How come the Giants, unlike other teams who do it after 2 or 3 years, it took them 6 years to figure it out? Why is that? And so the question now is, who's going to start for them? Tommy DeVito, the pizza boy, is going to play the rest of the season? Brian Dable, you're going to lose your job, and you deserve to.
Unfortunately, I was hearing that John Mara may actually keep this guy.
Wow.
Keep him and the general manager. Can you believe that? I mean, it's like, geez, man, everything is like, it's kind of like Rome. Everything is collapsing around you, and you still want to keep this coach? Jeez.
What I want to ask John Mara is, where are your cojones? Why don't you have what your father had, Wellington Mara? Wellington Mara would have gotten rid of Daniel Jones 4 years ago.
Yeah.
This guy has had more lives than any cat I've ever seen. It is time for him to go. Good job, Giants. You finally woke up and did it. Now, you also have to draft an excellent quarterback in the draft. And your coach said they should have drafted Jalen Daniels. Where were you, John Mara? You didn't listen to him. You're a jerk of an owner, and you need to go. Yeah. And I would tell you that right to your face. But since you're not going to go, you also need to think about a Brian Flores and Aaron Glenn, somebody who can toughen up this team and make them respectable again. Mm-hmm. And right now, both of these teams in New York are absolute garbage. And I will not spend a dime of my money for the next 5 years until the Jets straighten themselves out.
By the way, speaking of the Giants, this is the anniversary of the famous fumble.
Oh, my God. I remember that.
Yeah. Pisarcik, the quarterback, handles the ball to Larry Zonka. Yep. Zonka fumbles the ball, and Perm Edwards picks it up and runs it for the touchdown.
And what made that really bad, the Giants had that game wrapped up. All they had to do was hold on to the ball and fall on the ground and cover up.
Yeah, now we do that.
That's why they do it now, because the Giants' ineptitude in running that play cost them the game.
But that was a turning point for the Giants.
Yes, that's
true. They fired their general manager, the coach, replaced everybody.
You know what?
Drafted Phil Simms. Won the Super Bowls 7 years later.
And they brought in Bill Parcells.
Bill Parcells,
See,
yes.
That's the kind of team coaches that the Jets and Giants need. They need bad asses to come in here and do it. Why? Because when they've had nice guys run their teams, they're not any good. I'm sorry to say that, because there are a lot of teams that have good guys coaching them. John Harbaugh in Baltimore, and Andy Reid in Kansas City. But in this town, it seems like you have to get the bad asses to run the show.
Yeah. And so this is New York. This is New York. Yes. And I think one of the reasons why Daniel Jones failed was possibly, and I was reading some of the articles, probably because he was playing in New York. Not everybody can handle New York.
That's very true. I think, first of all, the Giants, that guy Gettleman, who was the GM at that time when they drafted him, over-evaluated his ability. Sure, they knew he could run. He has a good arm, but he can't play it when pressure's on him. He gets nervous. You watch his feet. You watch his hands. All right, rookie quarterback, second year, you get that. But this man has been here 6 years.
This is his 6th season, yeah. And I think there were some in the Germany game. There were receivers available, but he didn't see them.
No. And that's a terrible thing to say about a quarterback for 6 years. When there are rookie quarterbacks or second-year quarterbacks like C.J. Stroud, who are clearly better than he is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I'm Daniel Jones, I would hope to go to a good team where I can sit on the bench and learn.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example of somebody whose career has gotten better for doing that, and he's more talented than Jones. That would be Sam Darnold.
Oh,
He
yeah.
was a pretty good quarterback for the Jets, despite the fact that they don't know what the hell they're doing running their team.
I think he was one of their better quarterbacks. I know people bash him for the butt fumble and all the other stuff.
That was Mark Sanchez.
Mark Sanchez. I always get the two confused.
Okay. But they both went to USC, I guess.
But the USC, that's the USC connection. You go.
That's the connection. But Sam Darnold was a pretty good quarterback for the Jets, and certainly now after what we've been seeing, we almost want him back.
Yeah.
But he's gone through a couple of teams. He went to San Francisco and backed up their quarterback, Brock Purdy. He was in Carolina competing for a job with Baker Mayfield. He's been through the ringer a little bit.
Yeah.
Now he's in Minnesota starting for the Vikings. He's been pretty good. He's had some bad moments this year, but I will tell you what, that's probably what Jones needs. He needs to go on a couple of teams and maybe learn how to be an NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you he's going to be as good as Sam Darnold is now.
Right.
He doesn't seem to have the awareness of people coming at him from his blind side. He can move, but he almost seems to have to be forced to get out of the pocket and run.
Yeah.
He's got to learn quickly when they're coming for him, go.
Yeah.
Because you don't have the ability to feel your way around trouble. And that kind of quarterback should use their legs a lot more.
Yeah, like Lamar Jackson.
Yes. Lamar Jackson is a phenomenal runner.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's no question between he and Daniel Jones who the better runner is. But he runs in such a way that he's so hard to tackle. But he's improved his passing a lot.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones, in my opinion, has never improved his offensive abilities in 6 years. So I say good luck to him. Get him out of here. Got him out of here. Let's see if he winds up in the NFL somewhere and starts his career over.
Yeah.
Because he's had an awful 6 years.
From football to baseball. Now on to this Juan Soto sweepstakes. It seems like the Mets are the front runners, but according to the New York Post, the Yankees' Aaron Judge yesterday met with Hal Steinbrenner in Tampa and made his feeling clear that he wants Soto to stay with the Yankees, though Judge has not specifically spoken to Soto. Now, it seems like, like I said, this is going to be interesting. I think they were mentioning 660, 720 for 10 years.
I have heard rumors of 12 to 15 years at that price.
Okay.
And I think, although that sounds insane, we have to keep two things in mind. Number one, he's 26 years old. He's a very young player. He's already won a World Series title. He's an excellent offensive player. He can run your offense. The New York Mets really could use this guy.
Oh, yeah.
He would run the show in New York as a Met. But I think Steve Cohen is willing to maybe go as far as even $700 million for him. And I want him to do it because the Mets, to me, are very close to championship caliber level based on what we saw in the World Series.
What do you mean in the playoffs?
In the playoffs, yes.
Postseason.
Almost World Series for the Mets.
Yeah. NLCS.
2 games. But the point is, we played the Dodgers better than the Yankees did.
Yeah.
And we know now as Met fans, or we should know, that we're very close to being at the top.
Yeah.
I understand $700 million is a ton of money for anybody.
Yeah.
But if you're the Mets and you have not won a title since 1986, it is time to spend the money. Frankly, what I would like, and I don't think it's going to happen, I would like us to keep Pete Alonso and Soto and then get another starting pitcher. But you'll tell us about the other starting pitcher.
Yes, we had spoken about this the last time, about the Mets possibly getting Garrett Crochet. A friend of mine mentioned him in conversation the other day as we were talking about another player the Mets acquired, Jose Siri, whom she thought would be basically for depth since he's a very defensive player, but very light-hitting.
Yeah. Now,
I think he didn't even make Mendoza.
No, he hit 187, which is hard to believe, but he hit 18 home runs. So he has some ability to hit. but not for a good average.
Yeah.
But the Mets have a now pretty clogged outfield with Nimmo, with Siri, with Ty Taylor, with maybe McNeil. If they keep him, that's a very crowded outfield now. They might be able to use McNeil in a trade to get Crochet.
Yeah.
It will probably take 4 players to get this guy.
Yeah, maybe 2, no more than maybe 2 prospects.
Yeah.
Because she and I were saying that the Mets are even though they've gotten part of their farm system built, they still have to develop it even more.
Right. I say you give up 2 of those prospects and you give up maybe 2 players, regular players on the roster now. And I'll tell you what, Garrett Crochet might be the best player out there for the pitchers right now. And that's saying a lot because you have Blake Snell who's available. You have other pitchers, Mania, who we'd love to have come back. Corbin Burns, who is a phenomenal pitcher in his own right. But when you think about the velocity that this pitcher at 26 years of age has, we're talking about a pitcher who throws 100 miles an hour, who has an absolutely devastating slider. And there was a game the Mets faced them in Chicago. If you remember, they were limiting his innings toward the end of the year because he had injuries the year before that.
Right.
He pitched, I believe, almost 4 innings, struck out 8 Mets in less than 4 innings.
Wow.
This man threw absolute bullets at the Mets. 26 years old, what a talent. He reminds me a lot of, although he throws a little differently, like a Chris Sale, only younger.
Yeah.
Just wicked stuff. Now, this is a guy you could see being in the front of the Met rotation with Senga, for sure. And then if they want to go and get another pitcher for less money, they can do that.
Yeah.
I don't like Tyler McGill. They've been talking about keeping him. I say put him in the trade as well.
Yeah.
Because he's a frustrating pitcher. He throws 98. He's got the slider. He's got the forkball, but he's inconsistent as hell. It is time for the Mets to move on from him. Paul Blackburn, I don't know if I'd want to get rid of him because he was injured. He pitched fairly well for the Mets, and they got him from the A's. But if you had to throw somebody else in the deal, I would say you do McGill, Blackburn, and McNeil. And you give up 1 prospect, maybe 2.
Right.
I would be willing to do that. I think the Mets are very serious about getting this pitcher.
Oh, yeah.
And why not?
26 why not? 26 years old, not even approaching his prime yet.
That's the great part about Garrett Crochet. We're talking about Blake Snell is 31, 32. We're talking Corbin Burns, who's 30 years old. I'm talking 26 years old with velocity that is unbelievable. I want him on our team if we can get him.
Yeah, that's great. Well, more on the hot stove coming up. For Steve Ferguson, I'm Pedro Hazel Jr. saying thanks for watching, and thanks to Jay Kaplan for the feedback, and hi to Rabbi and Anthony Strait. If you like what you see, hit the subscribe button. The internet address is youtube.com/@Sportslines Plus.
Thank you guys for supporting us.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving. LGM.